Let's get busy.
Rhymes with time.
Rhymes with time.
That help you out.
Dan Seum, Senator Dan Seum.
Yes, sir.
How are you guys?
I'm doing wonderful. Yeah, good stuff.
Great.
Great.
Great. Peachy.
Well, we had Russ, just get you caught up. A couple months ago, I had an advocate of theirs on the show talking. We talked about SB 80 at the time. Mm-hmm. This bill that was to legalize recreational
Adult responsible use.
Adult. That's
Yeah, we don't call it recreational.
Well phrased. Well
yeah,
phrased.
There you go. Some people still call it recreational. I guess that's the ones who want to oppose it, if you will. But
Let me point out that when I had cancer and I was partaking in cannabis, trust me, it was not recreational.
it wasn't recreational.
Okay.
Well, we're going to talk about where the state is today and going forward. With cannabis, marijuana, scientifically through doctors, they've kind of showed and it's been kind of proven that there are medicinal benefits to it.
Yeah, no question about that. The research is overwhelmingly in favor of that, and I think anyone who is even has a tangential understanding of it realizes its potential. Just if nothing else, the day-to-day anxiety that people go through based on just life in general.
Well, I can say for a fact I'm someone who deals with rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm 52. So probably before the age of 45, I probably tried it. I can count on my one hand. Since then, as I'm getting older, the joints, things are aches and pains. Some of that is the company I've been keeping. They're good people. They just choose to smoke it, and it pushed me to try it, for the pain, and it's worked. So
I too have arthritis, which is why I just had another hip replacement, and I'm debilitated with it and ridden with it. And I worked on the medical cannabis issue for so long, and we finally got one through, but they negotiated out my symptoms and everybody else that has arthritis, but they kept in a couple other symptoms. And so
you're talking about this bill
the medical bill that went through last year,
that's SB 80.
No, that was House bill. It was a House bill.
Okay.
It was a medical.
Let me clarify. Senate Bill 80, which was my bill, was the full legalization of cannabis.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was another bill that was just medical only. That's what Dan Jr.
And that
talking
medical bill was brought in by a friend legislator, but they negotiated everything out and made it a bill that disenfranchised 3/4 of the medical cannabis patients. And I've gotten to the point, after working 7 years on the medical cannabis issue, to where I'm really tired of hearing that, because all cannabis use is medicinal, if you ask me. All of it.
Amen.
If somebody uses it just to chill out from a crazy day at work or whatever,
That's a good
it's
point.
all medicinal. And here we're trying to explain the molecular structure of a cannabinoid to a bunch of legislators who just happen to get elected, and they may have come out of the farm field and got elected, know nothing about cannabis, yet they uphold the law. And I got so tired of trying to explain medical. Well, what has happened, the shift that has happened is Senator Seum here, my dad, worked for 10 years with the helmet law in Kentucky. Took us 10 years. And for 8 years, we fought the medical community. And we was losing. But in the last 2 years, we come off with the motto, my right to decide. And we won. We won on constitutional issues, and the fact that I'm 21 and over, it's my right to decide. Now, ironically, you have to wear a seatbelt, but I don't have to wear a helmet. Now, how backwards is that? Now, that gets us to the point a lot of people think we can't get full adult use because we got to take the baby stepping stones and go medical first. Well, we didn't have to do that with the helmet law, and I don't believe that in Kentucky. I think we can go full adult use. I've been to Colorado. I've talked to mayors, chiefs of police, and we ask them, what do you want to come out with first? Should we come out with first in Kentucky? Medical or adult responsible use? And they all in chorus said adult responsible use. There's too much red tape in medical.
Medical's complicated.
Why is it complicated?
Well, you have to decide who gets medicated, what prescription or script you're going to give this person. Once you do the full legalization, then obviously it's just available to whoever wants it for whatever reason.
And not only
So,
and the more complications too is it's going to take years to get it off the ground. We got to get doctors involved. They're, who's going to? They have to write the scripts.
Yeah.
And
Instead of death panels, we'll have weed panels
Yeah.
to decide who gets to partake.
yeah, and that's just ridiculous. And that's what they're doing. And I said, I'm not doing medical anymore. For one thing, nobody can give you a working definition of medical marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Even all the advocates in Kentucky, you put them all together, you ask them what medical marijuana is, and they all will come up with a different answer.
That kind of surprised me because, look, right now, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 10 states, at least 10 that's full.
12.
12 now. All right. Why are we not?
30,
What-
let me give you a rundown. 35 states have legalized it in one form or another.
Okay.
Some medical.
Right.
12 full legalization.
Right.
Okay. All of Canada has legalized
Right.
it. 6 countries in South America, including Colombia. If you ever followed the thing in Colombia, you may not understand that one. I understand Israel has legalized it. Thailand now is looking at it. Now, Kentucky's sitting here supposedly with the #1 product in the world, and we don't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating because let's face it, it can be the next bourbon.
Yeah.
In any given year, Kentucky is either number 1, 2, or 3 in exports
In quality.
and production
And quality.
of cannabis.
Question.
Cannabis or hemp? Is that
Cannabis.
okay? Cannabis.
Hemp is cannabis.
Yeah, okay. Well, hemp is
It's all
It's
cannabis.
a cousin.
okay.
It's a
Yeah.
cousin.
All right. Because I know of the farms that we've got.
No, hemp
in this state.
has very little THC. Cannabis has the THC.
Okay.
That's the
Well,
difference.
that's-
But here's the problem we're having here with the hemp.
Okay.
And I'm overjoyed that we've got the hemp in Kentucky and the farmers are starting to capitalize. But the big thing now is CBD.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's flocking to the CBD. Well, CBD, you're allowed to have
They're popping up like Starbucks.
You're allowed, yes, they are, and it's 0.3% or less THC.
Right.
Here's the problem: you consume CBD 1, 2, 3 times a day. THC it will accumulate in your fatty cells and rest there for 30 to 60 days or more. All depends on how big you are. And what's happening is people are consuming only Kentucky Proud CBD, and they're testing positive for THC and jeopardizing their jobs, their housing opportunity, their child custody. I had a lady call me from Somerset, Kentucky, 24-year nurse, was moving up to administration, had to take a urinalysis, tested positive for THC, and she's only taking CBD for her fibromyalgia. So this is really happening, and I've talked to the agricultural commissioner about it. They know it. It's happening. So the cat's out of the bag. It's time to legalize it, and we might as well get it out of the black market and help some of the problems we got here.
Let's go because with like states like
Real
Colorado.
quick, Evan, just in case, I agree with everything you said. Just in case you do need to get it out of your system within a 48-hour period, all you have to do is go to Walmart, buy fruit pectin, the powder fruit pectin, mix that with Gatorade or Powerade. There's a million YouTube videos on this. Professional athletes use this
You
process.
just told me something I didn't know.
Yeah, so you mix the fruit pectin in like a medium-sized Gatorade, Powerade. You drink 2 of those within a 24-hour period and go to the bathroom regularly, drink water as well. What'll happen is your urine will get so clean that it won't register at all, but then you got to take a vitamin B12 pill so that it'll put the color
So
back
the
into
color,
it. Yeah.
yes. And
So-
if it's not warm enough,
Yeah.
No, I mean,
if
but
it's
that
not the right temperature.
I can tell you based on very, very near experience that works 100% of the time.
Well, we're going to get a fella in here with Kevin. His name's Tom Rector. He is a former UPS pilot, tested positive, and only consumed it like a month prior to that. Lost his job,
Oh shit.
and he has done some extensive research on the constitutionality and urinalysis itself.
You
He's
know
got a
what's
good story
interesting
for
on
you.
this? We have 24 grandchildren. I have one granddaughter who is epileptic, and for years she Didn't have any kind of a social life. She did manage to get through high school, but, you know, let's face it, a girl that's epileptic does not date. She had no social life, so she discovers cannabis, right? She's now 24 years old.
Game changer, huh?
She has a man in her life. She's got an apartment, and she's got a full-time job. Scared to death her employer is going to find out that she partakes in cannabis. Mm-hmm. So she functions very well because of this product now. You know, I'm very proud of her that she found a way, you know, to be functional, you know.
Let's hope her employer isn't listening.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
let's go back real quick. States
Yeah.
like Colorado and who are we talking about? The states that's legalized is the law. California, Colorado, maybe two of the longer ones. I guess
Washington State.
Washington State, too. Okay. I'm curious. Hasn't it been legalized long enough where the research has come out to justify all these for these other states?
You know, as a long-term legislator, you know, I remember when we decided that we were going to have wineries in Kentucky. This is the early 80s. And everybody fought the wineries because half the damn state was dry. We don't want that demon alcohol in our area, right? So we had to try to legalize that. We now have 83 wineries. And the reason I bring that up, there's a growing process in this thing. The industry has to grow up.
Right.
You know, and there's a time frame in there that we got allowed to grow up. We went through the same thing with liquor back in the 30s after we got rid of Prohibition. There was a growing process. So when you see some of these negative things that are coming out, is you have to come along the way and correct those things. So you have to give it room to grow and prosper, and understand that there's that needs some time to do that.
You bring up Prohibition. This goes back, obviously. You know, taking it back to Prohibition, where alcohol was illegal, and you saw what happened in the black market. You know, because the demand.
People die in the streets over it.
Exactly, and
fighting over it.
And that's what's happening now. Is that the truth is that, you know, with marijuana, cannabis being illegal, the demand is still there, which makes all this stuff come in from all these other countries. And
See, the one thing that if you go back and if you compare to Prohibition, when's the last time you heard of anybody getting hold of rot gut whiskey? It doesn't happen anymore. Back in the day, hell, they poisoned themselves with this stuff. So wouldn't it be nice if my granddaughter and I, if I ever get another cancer, could go down to the local store and buy a good, clean product? And that's where we need to be, and that's where these legalized states are going to be.
And one thing, too, is the 35 states that have adopted, none of them has unadopted.
that's a good point.
None, they're still going.
Yeah.
And
Well, they have growing pains, and everybody understands
yeah,
there's
I
growing
get
pains in
that.
this process. So.
And when I went to Colorado and we spoke to the chief and everything, their biggest problem was diversion. And that's, it's because it's illegal here. They're going to bring it here. Make it legal in the States, you can kill a diversion problem. And we've tried to tell them that. But the Prohibition, going back to the Prohibition, 1937, to understand why cannabis is illegal in the first place is a travesty and something that everybody, whether you use it or not, needs to stand up against. I was banned for a year and a half from the Capitol Annex building for quoting our first drug czar who testified in front of our Congress in 1937 for the Marijuana Tax Act to prohibit cannabis. That quote states like this. It says, there's 100,000 marijuana smokers in America, and they're Negroes, Latinos, Filipinos, and jazz musicians. And it makes the white women want to have sexual relations with the black man, and it makes the darkies feel equal to the white man.
I remember Rebecca.
That
shared some of
is
that
what
history.
was used to it was never about health. Now, what brought that upon was the
Clearly a racist.
the hemp industry was messing with the DuPonts in their paper mills, and they had to do something about it. Well, they knew they couldn't use that, the lack of profits to get rid of it, so they put it on the backs of the Mexican and the black man. Another thing, marijuana. They used the word marijuana because it sounded more Mexican. It was cannabis, and the doctors. It was always cannabis. The doctors even went against this. Don't do this, Harry. We're prescribing this successfully. The cannabis oil But no, we want to call it marijuana because that's what the Mexicans, the dirty Mexicans, that's the term they use. And we've adopted that. But actually, marijuana is a dirty word.
Yeah.
You know? And that is why cannabis is illegal. And we have ruined hundreds of thousands of lives over that bigoted, racist lie. Now, I've been to the end. I had to fight this case, and I won. It cost the state, because they had to pay for it, $7,500 just to fight and put me back in. But I've been to the
He got banned from the Capitol because he quoted history.
Yeah. And so I've been to the NAACP, I've been to the ACLU, and I've taken that quote, even to my attorney, that, Dan, don't use that in public. This is history. This is why you're locking these kids up. This is why you locked me up and ruined my life. You know? Now, a lot of people say, well, Dan, you didn't have your life ruined over some pot. Yes, I did. I got a felony over marijuana and tried to get a job with a felony.
My father did as well.
Yeah. And here's why I got into it. While I was in, I got a long sentence, and it was a long sentence. And while I was in, a little 18-year-old kid from Atlanta, Georgia, brought marijuana to Kentucky. He got locked up and put in prison. 18-year-old little deadhead. He came up to me. I was a pretty big old guy back
black
then.
or white?
Huh?
Black or white?
He was a white kid.
Okay.
He gets locked up, and he comes to me. He said, please help me. And I said, what? And he said, those guys raped me, and they're going to do it again. And he was raped several times. And I swore to God then, if you ever let me get out of here, I'll do everything I can to keep a kid from coming to prison for marijuana and being raped by a career criminal. It's ridiculous what we're doing. Not only do we, but here's another thing that really kills me while I'm ranting. I've counted the smoke shops in this town. There's over 125 in Jefferson County. You can go buy bong pipes, you can buy papers, you can buy this pipe, stash pipe, anything to grow your dope with, anything. They get the sales tax off of it, the employees tax. We employ all kinds of kids selling this stuff, but you get busted with it, and the charge carries more than the marijuana charge. You get more fine, and that's paraphernalia. But they'll sell it to you, set you up, and then bust you for it, and it's got to stop. It's just got to stop.
It really is sad, and I think it even goes back deeper into the culture with big businesses known about the remedies, the pharmaceutical companies and things of this nature have known about these natural remedies for a long time. Also,
Can we confirm that? I mean, we've got a senator here. That's always been the misnomer, or not the misnomer. That's always been either the story or the conspiracy is that that big brother who's in bed with the big pharmaceutical companies. They're hand in hand.
Well, if you see something that might be a future competitive product for your product, you're going to be against it.
I knew you'd just make it sense.
As a corporation, you're going to do that. But they're coming around because you're going to see. Interesting enough, what is the umbrella group over all the tobacco companies? Atrius is the umbrella group, billions of dollars. The umbrella group supporting over all the tobacco companies, right? Just invested $8 billion in Canada over the cannabis issue. So it's coming, and they're going to control it eventually. So the tobacco companies are going to be in the cannabis business before it's over with. Now you watch what will happen, and Big Pharma will be part of that too. So.
In Colorado, it's just like the alcohol industry here, beer industry. You have big canna, and then you have the microbreweries, the craft breweries. That's what's happening in the craft. They're getting along, but it's you got the mass production. It's not as nice. You got the people pot snobs that don't want nothing to do with it, but the masses, they do, and they're fine with it, and they're making plenty of money.
Let me talk about something that's, if you will, it's mentioned that I might be a libertarian at heart. So if you've been around in this state or this city long enough, I'm the guy that got rid of the vehicle emission testing problem back in the day. If anybody here even remembers that,
Yay, I remember.
And it comes down to this thing I call unjust law. There is such a thing as unjust law in this country. And you go back to slavery itself. It was legal. It was legal at one point in time. Sodomy.
And you guys aren't Republicans.
Sodomy was illegal.
Right.
You know, and interesting enough, and then and then you see all these things. Now this cannabis, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. That we have all these these things that are illegal out there that I think that are unjust. And that goes back to the libertarian issue. You know, this is my body; it belongs to me. I can do anything with my body I damn well please, as long as I don't mess with you. You know. Now, interesting enough, let me tell you about a success story. There are people that would criminalize people over tobacco right now,
Right.
nicotine,
Right.
right? The only thing that saves that is the farmers, right? Okay.
Yeah, clearly.
Right? They would love to do that, but there's a tremendous success story in tobacco that nobody wants to talk about, right? You know, for instance, now going back 20, 25 years ago, we were the number one smoking state in the country, according to some people that were doing the counting, right? 51% of people smoked cigarettes. 51% of Kentuckians, okay? Now, through taxation and education, it's now 14% or 18%. 18% of the people now smoke. So we have a success story there. But it's still legal, right?
Right.
Yeah, we didn't lock them up.
Yeah. So, but anyway, there's parallels here in prohibition and tobacco and so forth, you know. So I've always maintained I've got a right to do with my body what I damn well please.
Dan Seum, the Maverick of Fairdale, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you know, it's going back and being in the bar business for many years and neighborhood stuff and watching people struggle through life and nobody's perfect. People stumble, they make mistakes, you know. And, you know, I just listened to Judiciary. I'm on the Judiciary Committee in Frankfurt, been there for 20 years, and I'm one of the few non-attorneys on the Judiciary Committee, but I'm fairly well read, okay? You know, and I can understand, and when you're a non-attorney, you can ask the dumb questions. And every now and then, they're not so damn dumb, okay, right? So you see this people that are coalescing behind not legalizing it because there are jobs at risk here, right? We find out that we have a jail system. People don't know. Do you know we have a for-profit jail system?
I know that Colorado just voted theirs out, but I didn't know we did.
We have a for-profit jail system.
I did not know that.
Right. So we have
Good
jails
Lord.
in this state that, as long as you can lock people up and put them in my jail, it creates money for the county budget. Okay. So you sit there. And
How long has that been going on?
Oh, for years. For years. This is not new. It's always been out there, you know. So the question is, so then you get these people walking in and testify, oh, no, we can't decriminalize this. Well, I know part of the reason why you don't want to, because it's your job. You know, so
That miniseries Orange is the New Black really touches on this. It shows that not only is the for-profit prison system in the United States just like any other for-profit corporation where they just keep needling and narrowing down the bottom line and providing less and less of a experience or comfort for those that are incarcerated. Services, exactly.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the same thing's going on down at the southern border with the people crossing the border and being detained and the children being detained. They have just cramped quarters and all this. Those same people that run those prisons run those type of things, and they get so much money per person incarcerated per day, and they're just it's amazing. So if they get $800 or $1,500 a day, whatever it is, something like that, they're spending maybe $3.50 on services.
You guys don't wear an MAGA hat, do you?
No. One thing about prisons, though, we need them.
Oh,
We got some crazy people in this.
oh, totally agree.
And I'm telling you, they locked me up with some crazy. I seen some stuff, and I'm not a rapist. They put me in for drugs, and I couldn't understand it. I grew up with it. I have a lot of bad lifestyle. I didn't grow up with my dad. I didn't meet him till I was 15.
Okay.
So long story, but I got in there and I looked, and there's some pretty crazy people in there that we need to be protected from.
oh yeah.
And it's a tough situation trying to draw that.
Well, you have to look at
fine
the
line.
the nonviolent.
But there's also
the nonviolent criminals don't drug abuse, drug addiction is not a criminal.
It's not, no.
It's a medical. It is not a criminal act. And when
Unless
we
you're-
start thinking
yeah,
about
unless you're
I'd like
selling
to-
it.
I would like to talk about, if you don't mind, my little speech that I made on the Senate floor supporting Senate Bill 80.
Well, that's a good segue because I do want to go to Senate Bill 80
Okay.
because one of the things in the bill too, it's prison reform, correct? I mean that it's
It decriminalizes
it
it.
decriminalizes.
Yeah.
That's
And-
how it's the
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's what we're going to inject. We're going to put an addendum in. In Illinois, they just passed legalization and 800,000 marijuana expungements. Can you imagine what that's going to do?
Now
like
that's
it's like close to 1 million.
that's 800,000 people that now can go get a job.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the
Free and
felony-
clear.
the
They are
felony's
free
not-
and clear. Right.
Now, assuming that's their only felony, but
Well,
okay.
One thing that's prohibited my dad from getting his expunged. My dad was the principal of James R. Allen Elementary in Meade County.
Wow.
And he got busted in '93 or '94, I think it was. He was growing 4 mature plants in his basement there in Hillview where we lived. But he loved to read High Times, and he cloned a bunch of those females into little paper styrofoam cups so that he would have more mature plants to start going. But so they come in, they weighed the pot of dirt and everything, and all the lights, and they just weighed it all in garbage bags and said he had 24 pounds of marijuana in the house, which wasn't true. But so a lot of places.
They will lie about it.
Oh yeah, of course. This was in Bullitt County too.
Yeah.
Judge Waller in Bullitt County, which he actually had some controversy of his own. I believe he got disbarred or something for being crooked with a cop or something like that. But he said he has to go. He would have to pay like $1,500 to an attorney and go through all this to get it expunged now, so he could get back to. I mean, his whole life he had a PhD in education. Now he's the old hippie living in Winchester with hair halfway down his back, and they couldn't mess with his retirement. One thing the state can't mess with, no matter what happens, is the state retirement, which was good. So he's got that. But he was 5 years before his retirement, so he had to pay all that off. But yeah, he never bothered to fly. He had a buddy that came over with a girlfriend. The girlfriend got disgruntled, makes an anonymous tip to the Bullitt County, and then my dad loses his career and lost the house too.
Listen to this story. The fella that I got involved with, he's a leader of Kentuckians for medicinal marijuana. Me and him started the group. He is a multiple sclerosis patient. He was in med school when he developed the symptoms and had to quit because of the tremors. They had him on all kinds of drugs, debilitating drugs, and a guy turned him on to some cannabis. Well, he's from Puerto Rico, and he didn't know where to get it. Guy says, let me show you how to grow it. He's growing it in his basement, in a closet. Nobody knows it. His mother would go down and do his laundry for him and didn't know it was there. Fast forward, guy robs a bank. The cops are chasing the robber with the dogs in tow. They go through my friend's backyard, smell the cannabis coming out of a vent, come back and arrested him and took custody of his kid for 6 months. And all he was trying to do, he was a med patient. He wasn't from, he was just trying to help his symptoms. Then, and so Senator Perry Clark introduced me to this fellow. He said, will you help him? Because he knew I was in the reform movement. And I said, yeah. Then I met another fella in Maysville, Kentucky. He's a quadriplegic, been a quadriplegic for 22 years. He has to come here 6 times a year to the James L. Lyon Eye Center. And they have written, every one of the doctors there have written documentation that if he does not consume cannabis, he'll be blind from glaucoma in 1 year. That's all the kid's got left. He's been a quad for 22, and he's thinking he's going to go blind if he doesn't use cannabis. Well, guess what? They rode in on him and arrested him. They didn't take him to jail, but they put his wife on probation for a long time and scared him to death. Now he's afraid to grow his own. So he's been an advocate ever since that, because he said, I can't do this. I don't want to move this. I can't. No one will take care of me.
We all have these stories, but so how does this senator come to cannabis? Where does it come from? How do I know this, right? Going back when the AIDS epidemic was around, and we had a family member that died of AIDS. He was gay and he died of AIDS, right? And this goes back in probably the 80s and 90s. And they were all partaking in cannabis at that time because they all understood that it helped the nausea, right? So I remembered that. I said, well, it obviously helped them, you know, and of course, obviously they were all criminals for taking it at the point in time, but right? So then I get this cancer 7 years ago. I get colon cancer.
Oh, wow.
Right, and this is a true story. So they go in and they do the surgery. You know, they cut this out of me. And they give me this big bottle of Oxycontin. You know, and I said this on the Senate floor. I got up and said on the Senate floor, I said, I took my Oxycontin, I threw it in the garbage, and went home and smoked a joint. You know,
It's like,
you know, and
it's a big F you.
so I mean, I you know, okay, so arrest me. You know, but you know, and I got news for you. If I get another cancer, guess what? You know, I'm coming back. I don't want your damn pharmaceuticals. I don't want your damn
Well, the next,
Oxycontin.
if that happens, the
Yeah.
next time you partake, it better be legal by this time.
You don't want a
We don't want
narcotic.
it to happen again.
Well, let's go back real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Senate bill. So chat us up on how it, I guess the progress of it and kind of where it is now.
Well, interesting enough, right now the bill's going nowhere because we're not in session. Okay. So the bill did die during the session, but I think we planted some seeds, so to speak, no pun intended there. But and we thought the medical bill was coming. I think we made a lot of headway during the last session as far as education goes. You got to remember now, there's 138 legislators. and
Because
most of them-
education is it's literally half the battle here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you got 138 legislators, and you got to remember that it was one of the biggest freshman classes I ever seen was during this last session. Out of 100 House members, 32 of them were freshmen.
Oh, wow.
So there's a tremendous turnover there, and the reason that's so is a lot of people don't realize that a legislator in the state of Kentucky makes about $32,000 a year. That's the salary. And when you get there and find out you can't afford to be there, quite frankly, okay? So you have that turnover, so you're constantly having to educate. So I believe it's coming. We had a real shot at this time, and you got a Dr. Ralph Alvarado, who is Bevin's running mate at this point in time. And Ralph is a doctor by trade. He's very protective of his industry. And he refused to hear the bill as he was chairman of Health and Welfare, and that's where my bill was at. And what was really interesting about the bill was we had Bevin on the television. The governor on the Bevin television said, "I'm for legalizing medical marijuana," and but his lieutenant governor designee on the very same day refuses to hear the bill.
And why was that?
We won't give it.
No,
No, I know what it was. It was head games. You know, we're going to play this game with these.
So you
people.
think Bevin was full of shit? when he
Yeah,
said-
absolutely.
Just trying to
Get our vote.
Just trying
Yeah.
to get, okay.
Yeah, so he had the shot, right? He chose not to do that, and his cohort Alvarado chose not to hear the bill. Now, a lot of people don't understand the power of a committee chair in the state of Kentucky is this: if you're the committee chairman and you get to set the agenda for the next meeting, and if that bill is not on the agenda, it never gets heard. That's the power of the chair, okay? So he doesn't have to do anything. I'm just not hearing it.
Yeah.
There is no debate. There is no argument. Sorry.
Right.
Right.
I got you now.
Right. So, of course, I had to explain to him that I think I know where 10% of the vote in the state is. You know, I'm coming after you. You know, I'm coming. Right. So, and we are. Right. So, so that goes back to my picnic I mentioned earlier out of my.
But you're butting heads with your own party.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because, you know, I am about less government.
Yeah.
My Republican Party is supposed to be about less government. So where are you on this issue? Oh, well, we're basically nowhere. But it'll happen. Senate Bill 80 will happen. We will legalize it. And my floor speech was that Kentucky loves to be last. Right? We love to be last. And when I was talking on the floor, I said, not only are we going to be last, I said, we're going to be 55th on this issue. 55th. And I said, yeah, after Washington, D.C., after Puerto Rico, after Canada, after Mexico, we will finally do this. We're sitting there with the #1 quality product in the damn world and don't know how to capitalize on it. And it becomes very frustrating. But back to your question, Senate Bill 80 will happen. It may be a different number down the road, but the substance of the
But
bill
how
will-
far down the road are we talking?
Well, I think something will happen next session,
Okay, which is what?
come in January.
January, okay.
Yeah, come January.
Is that the biggest obstacle, that guy being on the chair, or is there a more abstract obstacle that we could like
Well,
the
it's
general
the-
public can go against?
Well, it's the education issue. You got to educate people, and of course, the average person out there, if they're listening, if you don't know who your state legislator is, shame on you. Okay, you got to know who these people are. People don't realize what a state legislator does. You know, we have a $24 billion budget that we deal with every 2 years, and 60% of that $24 billion goes to education in this state, right? So if you want to know where your money's at, and what's interesting about that, more things can happen for you or against you at the state level than ever the feds ever thought about.
Right.
But the average person hasn't got a clue who these people are.
But remind me, the cannabis issue, the federal government is staying out of it. They're
Yeah, they
leaving it
are.
up to the state.
Well,
And that's changing. That's
Well-
changing too. We've got. I mean, Rand's
Well,
up
that's
there
what I was
doing.
gonna say, yeah.
There's bills up there. They're working the federal level. But one of the things that kills me is we have a lot of legislators here that like to hide behind the FDA approval and the federal law, blah blah blah. But we're a commonwealth with supposedly more sovereignty. And all these other states that have adopted done it on their state sovereign rights to do so. Now, when it comes to the chairman and stuff, this Alvarado and this, we're putting a picnic called we titled it "Bullied by Bevin." Bevin said that little quadriplegic I told you about. He promised him at Fancy Farm. He promised him at Fancy Farm 2 years ago, "I'll fight for medical marijuana," and he had that quadriplegic believe in him, and he lied to him. Alvarado, his running mate, he killed our bill, would not hear it, and he's in the hemp business. They've got the hemp license. He's selling legal CBD. He's a legal marijuana dealer, just 0.3% or less
Has
THC.
anybody called his ass out?
But not, you ain't heard it out here. We have, but you can't now. And now, back to voting and stuff like that and involvement. I understand how easy it is to say screw government, screw civics, and all that. But what happens when we do is we get idiots like Bevin up there because we didn't want to get involved. We want to stay behind Facebook or on the computer and bitch about stuff, but never get boots on the ground and do something. Vet who's up for office. Go to a civic meeting. Go to a club and see what's going on. See who's up there going to call shots for us because that's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. They're calling shots. And like Dad said, we are affected more on the state level than the federal level anytime. Right. But nobody gets involved, and I think, you know, I've busted my ass and spent thousands and hundreds. I mean, my truck's going on its last leg going across the state. And I'm saying, where is the support? We had a rally in Frankfurt. We had 140 people out of the hundreds of thousands of supporters. Now, I understand coming out of the closet in Kentucky could be kind of tough because you can get locked up. But Rosa Parks didn't have no problem sitting in the front of the bus. She knew it was an unjust law. Cannabis is an unjust law, and we need to get off our asses and do something about it. Even the ones that don't smoke. I go around and I say this, you don't have to have breast cancer to wear a pink ribbon. You don't have to smoke cannabis to support his right to decide if he's going to use it for his cancer, if I'm going to use it or whatever, if I'm 21 and over. Now, they use the kids. You do the research.
26, under 26 or whatever.
It's
or something.
down.
Yeah.
Teen use is down. Fatalities down. The numbers are down. And the reason why teen use is down is because we're educating them. It's not as glorious anymore. It's not.
Well, let me come back to that because I wanted to definitely talk about this because I am for it, but I do hear the argument about teen use. One of the things I recently heard, I don't know where I heard it, but if you legalize something, then there's this misnomer of the normalcy of it. Alcohol, we know what alcohol can do. Fucking people die
Every day.
Every day drive. I mean, yeah. But then if you legalize marijuana, the normalcy is that, for a younger person is that, it must be okay to do it, But research, science says kids at a young age who take it, brain development. What's the cognitive word? So what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did a roof. I'm in the roofing business. Did a roof for a psychiatrist the other day, and we were talking about it, and she did mention developmentally in young people that it can have some adverse effects. But again, that'll come back to education, and
I
also
agree.
here's the big thing. I never tried cannabis until I was 42 years old 3 years ago. I grew up with hippies that smoked it all the time. Dad didn't get busted for nothing. He smoked weed all the time. He was a professional, went and did his job as a principal, came home. And, I mean, it was better that than Jim Beam because you didn't want to see him on Jim Beam.
Amen.
So, he was a functional, and that was his way of dealing with his conditioning. So, and this, especially back in the days, people, they have certain things that give them these anxieties and arthritis and things. So that was his way of self-actualizing or just, chilling out and not dealing with all the stress and anxiety that he had. Mm-hmm. But the education for the kids, they're going to see what this is for. They're going to understand, just like you don't have kids taking this OxyContin, you do have people that take it, but they're abusing it because they got hooked on it or because they just, were too curious and got hooked on it. Marijuana isn't that way. So for someone, it's ridiculous for someone to expect Dan here to take OxyContin, which has killed, it's an epidemic in eastern Kentucky, killing people daily and bankrupting families because, I've heard that it's up to $100 for one pill of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so just absolutely destroying people so that the pharmaceutical, it's covering up a mistake that the pharmaceutical industry made.
Actually, they're getting ready. They just,
Well,
according to
yeah.
Nebraska.
I want to come to a little defense here.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I just had my hip replaced 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If I had not had the pain medicine they gave me for the first week, I don't know what I'd have done. There is a place for medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to kill. I'm a big pharma because I know there's a place now. The gout, the arthritis, they gave me this stuff called Cocris. Never had it, but I don't have flare-ups anymore. That's big pharma.
Right.
So and one thing Dad says all the time, there's a certain percentage of people who are hell-bent on destruction. Go to the penitentiaries, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We got to quit. Another thing before I get off of it, I was a football coach for 7 years in middle school football. And you wouldn't believe how many kids are on Adderall. I would much rather see them on cannabis oil. I know kids who were having seizures 300 a week. They had to take to Colorado to get on the oils with the full spectrum down to 0 to 1. So if a kid one of the things too, if the kid does, nationally, teen use is not going up in the states that are legal. So let's get that straight.
Okay.
And if the kid does happen to get out and get it, I'd rather him do that than the liquor, than the pills, than all the other crap, because it just is totally different effect. Totally different effect. Now, I'm
Also-
not advocating teen use.
Yeah, well, Dan was
talking about, the one thing about this, when you talk about teen use, you got to understand, the product's in the street now. Legalization doesn't make it more available. It's all available at this point in time.
True.
It's all out there. The difference is they're getting dirty product. So you don't know what the hell they're smoking out there, for God's sake.
Spice
And they're
all
not
this.
getting educated because once it becomes legal, the education will happen too. But the other thing that's
And the reason where does the education come from? Because you've legalized it and you taxed it, and now you got the money to educate
to
with.
support
So-
that. And here's the other thing that I struggle with too. In the kid thing, I'm just throwing out science and all that. But the other thing too that I struggle with is, and I didn't say it, but I know, and I want to throw someone in my family under the bus. But the notion that in telling one of my my kids at a young age that marijuana is bad for you, well, it's not. I think we agree it's not bad. And here's the but it's illegal / bad.
That's
that
what's
was
bad
the
about
narrative. That was the narrative. It's bad for you, plus it's illegal. So two different things. That was the picture they painted. So, and that's just with my kids, and I know that's how a lot of kids probably are hearing it, that it's a bad thing. Well, here's what happens: the kids try it. It's not so bad. Well, maybe they're telling me heroin is bad too.
Exactly.
Let's give that a shot. Let's see the other shit that they're saying that they're lying to us about or lying to the kids about that are bad. If they try marijuana and it's not so bad, what makes them think, that the other shit's
That's
not
right.
bad?
That's true.
And that's scary.
That's
That's
true.
fucking scary.
One of the things too that we talked about earlier is the legislators and education. For 70 years, we've been lied to. We've been propagandized, and I understand legislators. They're people.
Right.
I understand people, in fear because they've been locked up, and I understand. But Perry Clark, he's a good friend of ours, been a friend of the family for years. He's been a legislator, and he's been a cannabis supporter with Gatewood years ago.
Gatewood Galbraith.
Gatewood Galbraith.
Yeah.
He labels those with willful ignorance. If you go to PubMed and you look it up, there's over 20,000 research papers on cannabis. Another thing that we've brought to the legislators, we brought a guy in. He's a medical marijuana patient, Irv Rosenfeld. We brought him to committee hearing. And he wanted to bring his medicine in, but the state patrol said they'd lock him up, so he just brought the can. And the first thing he said, I want to ask you, all you legislators up here, if you pay taxes, raise your hands. Everybody raised their hand. He said, I want to thank you for buying my marijuana for me since 1982. This man is among 5 people who gets 300 pre-rolled joints in a can every 25 days since 1982, grown at the University of Mississippi. Now, if it's so dangerous, why are we getting? And we're paying for it. We're paying for that.
How does he get by with that?
Yeah,
He's under the. It was called the Investigative New Drug IND program.
It was a study.
It was a study, and the study was killed, but they was grandfathered in.
Oh, wow.
So Irv comes in, and and they just couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. He's been getting it since 1982.
They mail it to him?
He goes to his pharmacy and picks it up in a big can pre-rolled. Now, here's where government should not get involved, just like anything else. We opened up them joints, and it was some of the most trashy stuff you could. If the government grows it, it ain't going to be no good. Let us do it, because it was some trash. It really was.
Define us, Dan.
Before we end this, I want to talk a little bit about money.
What?
Money.
Here, I'm glad that God, you're like 1 millisecond ahead of me.
Okay.
You posted, and I'm always on your Facebook looking at the articles you post. Colorado passes $1 billion in state revenue.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
continue.
Yes. It's interesting. Going back to my floor speech, and I got up and I wanted to talk about, and I actually said this on the Senate floor. I said, I want to talk to you all about 3 pots of money. No pun intended, I said, right? We all understand that the cannabis issue is out there, and we understand it's available to anybody and everybody. And once you put the money under the table, the money that's under the table, once you put it on top of the table, you get to tax it, right? So we all know it's out there. We all know the economy's out there, and especially in Eastern Kentucky. Big part of their economy, it's a cash economy, a big part of their economy, right? Then I got to talking about casinos. And I said, the state of Kentucky has 4 casinos. They're just all on the wrong side of the river, So I got a governor that says we can't have casinos because you might commit suicide. But at any rate, we have them anyway, even though Churchill Downs just recently opened up one, and that his administration gave him the license. Okay. So at any rate, so I said the 3 pots of money, I said, I estimate by legalizing cannabis, by legalizing casinos, and by legalizing sports gambling, the state of Kentucky, conservatively would generate $500 million of new money per year. Now, we got this tremendous pension problem. 30 billion, 40 billion unfunded liability, right? So that means that if you do what I tell you what we ought to do, go out and get this new money that's out there anyway. It's either on the other side of the river or under the table, whatever. Once you go get this new money, now we have a 2-year session. We can go into session, we have a budget session on even numbered years. So it's a 2-year budget. We would literally walk in the door with $1 billion of new money. And there, that solves, over 30 years, solves your pension crisis. With
Shouldn't
new
go to
mon-
the casino high, though.
Right.
It's never a good idea to go to the casino high.
But they do, and as long as they behave themselves, I don't give a damn.
Well, we want to see a casino at Lake Cumberland with a dispensary right down the road.
You know, have you ever been to Lake Tahoe?
Yes.
I've not.
Okay, you've been to Lake
Yes.
Tahoe. Have you ever been to Lake Cumberland?
Yes.
Okay. We could put a casino down on the Tennessee border at Lake Cumberland and have the Lake Tahoe of the South. And this thing would generate tons of money, not to mention the jobs.
Yeah.
New jobs in eastern Kentucky, you know. So this is a vision thing that I have that is so difficult sometimes to get anybody else to understand and have this direction. So you have to have some kind of vision and some kind of damn plan, right? So, but in the meantime, instead of doing what I'm saying to the governor, what does the governor do? Right? One of the best kept secrets out there, and a lot of people don't know this, right? You know, a lot of people don't understand that if you're a retired person in the state of Kentucky, until this last January, you got a $41,000 deduction on your pension plan on your state taxes. So if you made $50,000 in pension money in a year's time, you only paid state taxes on $9,000 because you had this $41,000. So because we have this pension crisis and we don't want to raise this new money, governor passes the bill to drops it to $31,000. So every pensioner in the state of Kentucky lost a $10,000 deduction. And if you're a married couple, you lost $20,000.
Oh shit!
People
That
don't know
was
that.
his.
I didn't know that.
That was his answer to it. One of the best kept secrets going. That was
Now,
his
is that when all the people were going and protesting, teachers?
Well, yeah,
That was part
it
of
was
it.
part of the
Yeah,
budget process. This is his speculation, and in his original bill proposal had taxing Social Security. So we're going after Granny, but we can't legalize casinos, we can't legalize cannabis, and we can't legalize sports gambling.
What
Insane.
What does
No.
Bevin get? Who is funding Bevin, or what kickbacks or what kind of donations does he
I
get
don't think it's
to have
that.
that hard line?
I don't think it's that. I just think he's an incompetent. I just really believe that. He's my 8th governor, and this guy hasn't got a clue how to govern a state.
Is he
Trump's
playing?
boy.
Is he playing to this evangelical base? Is that what he's doing?
I'm glad you brought that up, because how
not
much
just-
of that evangelical base is
I
it?
don't think that's.
But how
there.
much of it, the evangelical base, is against marijuana, is anti-marijuana, anti-gambling, you know,
Anti-gay.
well, all the above. But yeah, it's all that. But how much influence, you know, or is
I
there?
don't think it's there. I think that he has. Bevin does not have any concept on how to govern the state. I don't believe this man has ever managed people. He's worth a ton of money. I don't know where his money came from, but he didn't do it by managing some corporation or being a CEO. I'll guarantee you, because he has no concept. You know, he spent the first 6 months of his tenure using the power of his office to buy a house on the cheap. Remember the $3 million house?
Yeah, that was a
Well, he got the assessor to get it down to $1.5 million. Now there's more to the story.
Yeah.
The guy he bought the house off got a real nice appointment at the state, and the wife of the assessor got a nice job at the state. It stinks.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Breaking
No.
news
So
here on
this
City
it's
Run
not.
Loose.
It's not about marijuana here. But the point is, I'm convinced this guy has no concept how to run a state, how to manage a state, and you know, I don't know how you bring people together if you're constantly insulting everyone. You know, I have a granddaughter who I have 4 teachers in the family, and 5 actually, and I have a granddaughter who is in her 3rd year of teaching. She's teaching at a high-risk school in West Louisville. She has 24 black babies in her class, and I don't think she's greedy, and I don't think she's a thug. Okay, which is what he called her. You know, and I have a friend of mine who is a family court judge in Bullitt County. Okay, now if there's probably a special place in heaven for anybody that wants to be a family court judge. This is one of the toughest jobs out there, and I just don't think she's an incompetent hack. You know, and I just don't understand all this constant. It's a defense mechanism. When you challenge him, he comes out with this juvenile statements. You know, and But
Wonder where he could have learned that. I don't know.
One of the things that got me what he did was
Like
Dad
that
was.
stupid suit jacket he wore at the.
Is he on
fair.
Twitter?
We come out. Dad come out with Senate Bill 80. We was working the bill, and Dad was a majority caucus leader, one of the top 5 positions, and he'd been there for a while, running for office in the middle of a campaign. Right here comes Bevin in the media, says Dad's delusional for bringing out Senate Bill 80. Now this is a man who's going to depend on his vote for something on down the road. He's been a senior legislator well before Bevin ever thought about coming to Kentucky, right? And here on news saying he's delusional because he's trying to come up with a plan to fix this pension. Called him delusional. Now, the one thing that the Republicans say is about the 11th commandment, thou shalt speak no ill will. Well, when Dad came out for Bashir, they all come out and said, you should speak no ill will, but nobody in Bullitt County that he represents came to his defense when he called him delusional. Mm. Now, we're having a picnic September 28th between 2 to 6. We titled it Bullied by Bevin. And if you've been bullied by Bevin or you think Bevin's a bully, this is your picnic.
Where is this?
It's going to be at Dad's place at 1107 Holly Avenue. And we're going to have teachers there. This is a nonpartisan. We ain't here to. We're here to. Our group is called Restore Civility to Public Service. It's time to do that. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. We can't be a one-party state. We can't.
Divided we fall.
We can't just be one party. If we're just one party, then I've seen corruption on both sides. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. There's corruptness on each side. We have to have checks and balances. Another thing is we put too much power we give too much power to one person. That governor, Bevin, Bashir, he's one man. He's got checks and balances. He can't go in and just do anything he wants. He's got a Senate and a House to deal with too, and he can be vetoed. So we need to quit getting off so much about the one man and start looking at the bigger picture here. You know what I mean? This is a nonpartisan issue. This deal with this picnic, cannabis people are going to be involved. Teachers are going to be involved. And the cannabis issue especially because he promised that little quadriplegic that he'd fight for medical, and he dropped everything about it and then come out and let his running mate go against it and then called Dad delusional for trying to fix it with the cannabis issue. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this picnic.
Besides that, it's going to be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, free food too.
Can we get a cornhole tournament going at the picnic?
Well, they might have.
He'll be the.
Do you know any pros?
Oh yeah, Fairdale actually has quite a few pros that play every Thursday at Fairdale Pizza there. So you
Okay.
should come out there. There's probably
I live right around the corner from that.
every
So do
Thursday
I.
at 7. There's about 60 to 80 people who show up behind Fairdale Pizza to all do a blind draw for cornhole. So you should come and.
He's
tell them
done a
about
heck
the
of a
pi- the
business
picnic.
there. He has turned that place around.
Absolutely.
It's been a while since I've been there. Real quick.
Any think we ought to get back on the cannabis issue?
Well,
here?
we'll stay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Cornhole later, Russ. Recently, here in the city, Louisville, didn't they pass some ordinance or something where they can't?
We worked on that for about a little over a year.
Yeah.
It's called a LLEPO. It's the lowest level enforcement policy ordinance.
Right.
And we got the council to majority vote to put an ordinance out. If you're arrested, if you're pulled over, if you got less than a half ounce or under, no more ticket, no more arrest citations, no nothing. And it's not far enough. We try to get more, but what it does is it's going to send a heck of a message to Frankfurt. Now, we were in the mayor's office last week, me and a fellow named Tom Rector, who I'll hopefully be on this show soon. Sure. And we're working with the mayor's office. He hasn't signed it yet. He's going to. She had some questions and was really happy about the answers. One of the things that we're trying to do is get them to get us audience with the FOP because they're going to be they're an issue. One of the things I want to say though about the police officers, we worked with the guy. He's retired now. Took him with our team to Colorado. He was there when we talked to the chief and everything, and he's come back to tell the police officers, "Hey guys, the sky hasn't fallen." He'll also tell you that they've never been called on a domestic violence when it's only been marijuana. It's always alcohol, and he's here.
That's a damn good point.
He's here. Not only that, but he'll tell them, and he said,
Or
now,
pills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he'll tell them that when they pull somebody over with a little bit of pot, they just throw it away.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you to throw my half ounce away. I paid $150 for that, man. I'm going to. Why you want to take that out of the economy? You know, just leave it alone.
If you legalize, it'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
How do they address the new, what I call the new wave of cannabis products, which are the edibles and the vapes and things of that? So you say that half ounce. How are they addressing that?
Well, it's not addressed. You know, it's not, and it's going to be part of the bigger issue.
Baby steps right now.
But one of the things I want to get out to is we have some naysayers, some supporters out here that are just mad because we're talking about taxing it and blah, blah, blah. Just let us grow it and leave us alone. Well, not everybody has a green thumb. Mm-hmm. And the dispensaries are important. The edibles and stuff, people don't want to just smoke it. They don't want to inhale pot. They want to go to a nice, clean place, buy their product, and leave.
Yep.
And they're not all...
And know exactly what they're buying.
And know what they're getting. And that's what they're doing.
You can vouch for
And
that.
be able
right?
to manage the dosages too.
You
Because
can- and you
microdosing is something like when you're talking about the kids and all this other stuff. Being able, when somebody fires up a joint, they smoke the whole thing. They don't know exactly how much they're getting. With these, they even have tablets and the vapes. You can kind of gauge, what the milligrams that you're getting in a lot of these things.
And the thing about that too, about smoking though, is you get to self-regulate. You can take one toke,
Yeah.
and if that's all you need, that's all you need.
Yeah.
When you take a pill or you take an edible, you're in for the whole ride. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you can get different
And a brownie.
levels.
I've
Yeah,
been
you
there
could
and
get
done that.
different levels, but if you're not, and we had a lot of people going to these legal states and trying it for their first time.
I just want you to know, back in the 50s, I tried some brownies. So this is not new. By the way.
I tried
Well,
one
and
about
back in the day, they keep talking about the potency of marijuana today, and I keep wanting to tell them, man, you don't remember Acapulco Gold or Redbud. Because back there, that stuff back then would knock you on your butt, So, the potency, they've messed with the chemicals, with the strains and all that. It's a little different taste and all that. But regardless, it doesn't make you out of your mind. And another thing, it's just a plant. It is a plant. Like aloe is a plant that you take and you cut open and put on your sunburn. It's just a plant.
for all those God-fearing people out there. If it's a plant and they believe in the Almighty.
Yeah, well, that's right.
He
all seed-bearing fruit
Exactly.
come from the Lord.
Real quick, going back to the city putting this ordinance. I guess I don't. You called it
The LLEPO.
Is that anywhere else in the state?
Not in this state, but we have Lexington. We're working Lexington now. We're getting ready to work Paducah. And Cincinnati just did it. There's over 50 cities that have done it. It's kind of like a sanctuary city for cannabis.
Yeah.
And basically what it is.
How many big cities? Like
Cincinnati just did it.
No, I'm
with-
talking about the LAs. Those
Well,
Cleveland.
California legalized the whole thing, so it's not.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But,
Colorado
But-
legalized it all.
Yeah.
Washington State
Yeah.
legalized
Minnesota's
it all.
getting ready to legalize.
Yeah.
So,
And there's been a lot of cities adopt. Texas has got some cities that adopted, and they're not legal yet. And I don't have the whole list of all the cities that have adopted.
Illinois just legalized it.
Yeah, but they have. We have over 50. There's a city in each state that has done it. So and it's not what we want. I don't like decriminalization, because decriminalizing still demonizes the plant, and it should have no demonic value at all.
No.
It's not bad. Cannabis is good. It's not bad.
I partly blame the hippies, though, for making it so counterculture.
Yeah, we do. Hang on, let's go get stoned. Let's go
Yeah.
get high. Well, somebody that don't know, they go, well, they're going to get stoned. What are they going to do? Reefer madness.
Now, wait a minute. Now, you're talking about my 60s.
Exactly. I talked to my dad about this, and my dad said, well, if they ever legalize it, I'll probably quit doing it, because he did it specifically to be counterculture. And I'm like, what is your problem, dude? I mean, you just don't know the anxiety you're curing with it because you're too much of a head case.
Yeah.
But they, I mean, they played right into the hands of the government, the clergy, and all these people
But
who
we-
wanted to demonize it. They played
You
right
know,
into it.
back in the '60s when that was my time, my 20s, in Vietnam and all that, and
Were you at Woodstock?
no, but all the young ladies were running around with these T-shirts on that said "Make Love, Not War." I thought it was a hell of a plan.
Yeah.
and
Yahtzee.
Yeah.
great plan.
Score. He's in. He shoots. He scores. I saw the article. What was the deal about Ohio lawmakers accidentally legalizing marijuana? What the hell is that about?
Well, they tried to come out with the medical, and their language just basically made it legal, and there's a loophole there, and they're trying to fix it. But that's just
It's all in how you read the language sometimes.
it's how you read the language. Senate Bill 80 is going to come back out. It may not be SB 80 because if we can't get the number again this year, but we're going to try.
Every year, if you don't understand the process, there will be something like 1,000 pieces of legislation in the House and Senate combined, okay? And maybe 200 of those will pass, and the numbers start all over again every session, number 1, 2, 3. So you can sometimes I can go in and reserve the number 80 for my bill, hopefully, but I'm not in the best standing at this point in time with some people, right? Right.
It seems like the Democrats should be big fans of yours, though.
Yeah, but whatever. Well,
They're not in control.
You have to understand.
That's the problem.
I am a conservative Republican libertarian. So
You called that right away, right? You
Oh yeah.
sniffed that one
Well,
out.
anytime you talk to a Kentucky Republican and they make perfect sense about everything they say, they're a libertarian.
thank you.
Well, common sense is one thing we lack in Kentucky politics. Just common sense. Like Dad was talking about the tax issue. Bevin sliding that tax. People don't know that. That's common.
Where is the media on that?
They're not there. We don't know.
Too
They're not
difficult
there.
to explain. You're going to lose the audience.
I don't know. But that's why it behooves.
But the point
people
would
to get
be
involved.
that what most people don't understand, that when you lose a tax deduction, that is a tax increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seth Meyers, the talk show host,
Yeah.
just did a big thing on over-the-road truck drivers, and something that Trump did the same thing on. He slid in. He took away their per diem. So because they took away that per diem write-off that they were getting, they were actually owing at the end of the year. And they all were in a big circle talking to this. Seth Meyers is a little bit of a liberal kind of guy, but he was just pointing out that, hey, you're getting hosed here on this particular situation.
Well, the retirees are getting hosed, and they don't know it. They don't know it.
Now think about this. You're a teacher. Your pension's in doubt, right? You're a state employee, and your pension's in doubt, okay? Now, I could do a whole program on pensions right now. We won't go there. And you got a governor who says, I'm going to fix your pension. Then he screws you on your deduction. I mean, let's put it.
Insult to injury is what
Oh,
it sounds
absolutely,
like.
absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to bring up too, because I thought this was funny, and I saw this the day you posted it when Bevin made the comment that legalization leads to spike in homelessness, ER visits, and disease.
Legalization and gambling.
And gambling.
And guess what? But he didn't mention anything about Churchill Downs or his new casino that he allowed on Poplar Level Road.
That's true.
Go. Have you been in that place?
I've not been in it.
Oh, wait.
It is a casino.
Wait a
It
minute.
is.
But no, but we call it something else.
Yeah.
Well, it's called Derby City Gaming. Is
Yeah.
what the name of the place.
And we call it for tobacco use only.
Now,
It's not a bong pipe for marijuana.
Now, for those that don't understand, if you're going to have a gambling entity in the state of Kentucky, you got to have a state license.
Right.
And somebody has to
Somebody
allow
had to
you to
sign
get
off
the
on that
state
shit.
license, okay?
I wonder who could that be?
Well, it's happening.
Could it be Bevin?
Could Damon Thayer have anything to do with it? He is with the horse industry.
I'd say so. And plus, that's the worst. Slot machines are like the crack cocaine of gambling. because I mean, people just mindlessly sit there pumping money into it. They get a little bit of feedback.
And a
that's
machine
good.
that's programmed to beat you.
Yeah, it is guaranteed to beat you. At least with blackjack, you can try to count the cards.
One of the things I tell people too is, like Dad said, there's 138 legislators in Kentucky. There's 4.2 million residents. Those 138 legislators have control over that entire population, and that equates to a lot of power. Yeah. It ain't the $32,000 a year they're making; it's the power. It's the power. Yeah. And if they think that that power is in jeopardy, then they'll start moving. And that's why we have to get the cannabis community and all supporters involved in this next session, calling their legislators, going to the meetings, asking them why they're not voting, tell them to support Senate Bill 80 and any cannabis bill that comes off that allows adult use. Make them do it, because that's the only way we're going to get it done in Kentucky. We don't get to vote on issues. If we could have voted on the issues, we would have had casinos a long time ago, and marijuana would have been legal a long time ago. We've had poll numbers out here statewide. 85% approve of medicinal, over 60%, and approve of adult responsible use. But it was, if it was worded differently, the question, the numbers would be a lot higher, because what they do is they say, "Are you in favor of recreational marijuana?" If they would have said, are you in favor of somebody 21 and over, taxpayer, consuming cannabis, then the numbers go up. Mm-hmm. You know, but when you use these spin words, recreational marijuana, what's that connote? We don't call it recreational bourbon. We don't call it recreational beer. That's a spin word, just like marijuana is a dirty word. And recreational connotes, what, are we going to be out in the streets doing whirling dervishes with our bong pipes? That's not how it is.
They do that at Burning Man, though.
Yeah, well, and I'd love to go, but that's at Burning Man. In the meantime, I'm just going to sit in my house after I worked all day and smoke a joint. Leave me alone. You know, the medicinal thing. God love what they're trying to do. They're getting so desperate, but it's a mood issue anymore. They're destroying the name of it. Even they can't even tell you what.
And also remember, now we have jails that are totally overcrowded.
Right.
Kentucky is the number 2 state in the nation in incarceration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me give you.
Because one thing this state
bigger,
and country can do is incarcerate young black men.
For example, a couple years ago, going through Iroquois Park, it's snowing. I'm trying to beat the old lady home and smoke a joint because I didn't want her to know I was smoking a joint. Right. So here comes the 4-wheelers out of the woods, man, and they come on me and they get me, and went through all the rigmarole, and they wrote me a ticket, $63.
Here in Louisville,
here in Louisville.
They were on 4-wheelers?
It's in Iroquois Park.
Oh, I thought they were staking you out or something.
So anyway, and they found I was smoking. I admitted
In the car or outside?
in the car. I'm smoking. They write me a ticket. It's called an arrest citation. They can't lock you up. They can't take you into custody over a little bit of pot anymore. We fixed that. But it's called an arrest citation. You're still arrested, and you got to go through the hoops. Grayson County, on the other hand, I'm at the lake. I got to run down and get a boat part. Come back. I'm going a little bit fast, trying to get home. Cop pulls me over, says, "I smell it." That much, less than half of my thumb that he finds. And I had to go to jail, no ifs, ands, or buts. I had to spend the weekend in jail, clock in, do the weekend, because of that little bit of butt, because of the no-nonsense, no tolerance from the prosecutor. And here I am, an old man with 4 rods in my back. What am I going to do? What is Willie Nelson going to do? Why are you going to lock somebody like Willie or the old man up here who's got cancer?
Not pay his taxes.
You know, I got 4 rods in my back. I'm not going to go do nothing. They had to lock me up. I had people trying to help me politically get out of it. There was no getting out of it.
Wow.
On a side note, have you tried the new vapor stuff that they have, the cannabis oil that you vape?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't like it.
That has no smell.
Yeah, it has no smell, and I use it when I go into places where I need to.
Yeah.
But nothing substitutes a good old flower joint for me.
It
Nothing.
actually delivers more of the medicine. See, I've had this debate with my father, who's an old school, super 60s
I'm
hippie.
old school.
And I've tried to explain to him, it's like, you know, I get the ceremoniousness of it, the whole Chinese tea ceremony that you want to do. But if you're about the medicine, the vapor gets it to you more cleanly, more effectively, more of it. And
Well,
it has
I
zero
disagree.
smell, zero.
It doesn't have. I mean, it's stealthy.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want the full effect, you're not going to get it from the oil because it is diluted. When they say that it has 85% THC, that's not 85% that's in that bottle. The THC is 85% pure.
Okay.
You know, it's not the content in the vial is not 85% THC.
Well, the
You
ones
see what
that
I'm
I've
saying?
seen, they say THC content 93%. I
And
could tell the
CBD and
difference.
CBNs.
Yeah, I could tell the difference between California stuff and Nevada stuff because I went to Vegas and their stuff was way overpriced and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't that good. It was all down in the 80s and some in the 60s.
Yeah.
But now, according to Mansers, the show that comes on Spike TV or whatever, the actual smoking it is one of the least ways of getting the active ingredient in you. Yeah, you're going to get more of a buzz from the actual sensation of smoking and the deprivation of oxygen and things of that nature, but you're not getting as much medicine in that joint as I am in my vape. I can guarantee you that.
Well, that's another. We'll talk about
this
that
is
later.
why we have more than one product.
Oh, okay. Here's something that my colleagues at vapes have antifreeze, which can kill you.
Well, all of them.
And well, I know that some of the vape the what is it that they use to put the oil, make it to the soluble stuff.
Decarboxylated hashish oil is what's in most of the edibles.
Yeah. You have to decarboxylate your stuff to get. But on the
This is over
when
my
it comes to making it into a liquid form, they have to introduce that. What is it that they put in there? Glycerin. It's a glycerin, and the glycerin has values you don't want.
Yeah.
Now I'm not. People like edibles,
Yeah.
and they suit them fine. And you know what? That's the beauty of it. If that's what you like, go get it at a dispensary. But if you like a good joint, get it at a dispensary. If that's what you want, fine. If you don't like to smoke and you're against the combustion and all that, fine. Eat an edible.
You grow up with every relative in your family smoking menthols in your face, and you'll learn to hate smoke real
Yeah,
fast.
I understand. I understand.
You know what's interesting is my wife is a smoker, and she's totally and completely addicted to nicotine. Absolutely, and doesn't even understand that she's addicted. She don't want none of them dopers around her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating, right? But she's old school. She'll come around. But anyway.
Real quick, let's go to the national level. Well, what's I saw, and this is something you posted where Trump's former acting attorney general
Bought into
the game. He joined the
John
cannabis-
Boehner.
No, and Boehner, but
Boehner has too.
Boehner has too. So in this case, Matthew
Former
Whitaker.
Congressman Boehner.
Former Congressman Boehner, but the acting attorney Matthew Whitaker joined as a legal advisor to a cannabis company. What is? Trump's got a lot of pull. Here's
the problem.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, they come. Okay.
Cannabis is at this point in time at the federal level is a legend drug, and it's one of those top tier narcotics. Now we all know it's not a narcotic, but there it is. It's on that list, and once they take it off that damn list at the federal level, it just opens the door up for everything, and that's what stops everybody. Now, what's the reason these states are able to legalize it and the feds aren't walking in? Is because the states that have the balls, quite frankly, are saying to the federal government, we know this is illegal to the federal government, but we, the state, are not going to lock up your miscreants, if you will. If you, the federal government, want to arrest these people, you come in here and do it, and you house them because you're not putting them in our jail. And that's why the feds are not enforcing the law. Okay.
All right. What's Trump's stance on this?
I don't know.
Actually, do you know, Russ?
He's helped relax stuff, and
Well, that's what I'm getting
I
at.
know Trump's a businessman,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've not heard any adverse things come from about cannabis.
I haven't either.
Turns out he's a politician, though, and that move that you said Bevin made where he says, oh, yeah, I'm all for it, and then he has somebody in the back room pulling some shit.
Yeah.
Guaranteed Trump's the same
Well,
way.
we don't know that,
Yeah.
so we can't guarantee it. So we don't know it,
Yeah.
and I haven't heard anything.
Evangelicals.
Yeah, I haven't. They're the problem. We have people that are so earthly
Franklin-
minded,
what's it,
so
Franklin
heavily
Graham?
minded, they're no earthly good. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
People that are so, the evangelicals. We were having a problem with the moral police. The church is pathetic sometimes. The people in church, not the church. It's the religious people I have the problem.
I think the church too.
Well, we won't go there, but it's religious people I have a problem with. And when you want to put your morality on me, and I went through it. I went through some rehab stuff, and they had me throw away my rock and roll music and all that. But they were some of the stuff they were doing on the sides is just the hypocrisy. And then I see the hypocrisy in this state when it comes to the cannabis laws itself. We'll lock a kid up for paraphernalia after we sold him the damn pipe and took the tax off it. It's just it's freaking ridiculous. But trying to get civil about it all and restoring civility to public service, Bevin's got to go because he's done showing what he's going to do.
Is that vote? Is that this year?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
This
no-
coming
November.
Yeah, it is.
Andy Bashir hasn't proven to me that he's anywhere near as bad as Bevin. So I want him to have a shot.
Who has? So you're.
I want to see Andy go in
Okay.
because Bevin's done proven what he's done. And it's between them two.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want Bevin in there no more. He lied to us, and he's bullied. He's bullied my sister. He's bullied. He called him delusional. Half of the Republicans in Frankfurt can't stand him anyway.
You have to understand that with my opposition to Bevin is not about one issue.
Right.
What everybody seems to forget that when you hire or vote for someone for governor, when he or she gets the job, they literally have to govern a state.
Republicans
That's the
and
job.
Democrats.
You got to govern the state. You're the CEO of the largest entity of the state itself, right? And when you show me you're totally incapable of doing that, all politics aside, this guy's incapable of doing it. He has no plan, And somebody said to me, what's the difference between Trump and Bevin? I says, Trump is an arrogant, pompous ass with a plan. Bevin is an arrogant, pompous ass with no plan. I mean,
No plan.
and so there's where I'm at with this. And a lot of people kind of get caught up with this cannabis thing as if I'm at him over just that.
That is the best way to describe Trump. And I'm not a Trump guy, but that is actually.
You may not like the plan, but he's got one.
Got one. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but at any rate, so it's just sad that we've got this guy who, and quite frankly, I showed up at his fundraiser, wrote him a personal check for $1,000 because you're my guy, you're my Republican, and I'm for you.
You try.
He gets there and he's worthless. He's useless. He has no clue. And what happened is so juvenile that when you challenge him, he lashes out with something stupid, like you're greedy and you're if you delusional, or you're a thug, or my judge is an incompetent hack. And come on, guy, that's just what some 14 or 15-year-old kid would pop up with.
How did a carpetbagger from Connecticut get to be the nominee for the Republican Party?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't quite figured that one out either. But surely God, we can vote for somebody that's born and raised in Kentucky. But maybe this is how they act in Connecticut. I don't know. But I want my governor to conduct himself or herself with some damn class. That's what I want. And I may not. And also, if we're going to have a discussion, I want to be able to sit down and have an intelligent discussion about an issue so we can arrive at a plan how to solve it. Instead of going on the airways and popping off and all this, this silliness,
Distraction.
And that goes,
Basically
but that's
just
both
distraction.
ways.
Yeah.
That's both ways. That's both parties that do that.
Oh, yeah.
We've gotten so
you're right.
evil with each other, we can't sit with each other. My own son won't have nothing to do with me because of politics. And I mean, we're having a little issue, but we can't. We used to be able to be Republican and Perry Clark Democrat, and they would fight. They would push bills off on each other, and work them. Perry in the House and Dad in the Senate, Perry a Democrat, and it worked. They had debate, and we come out with a better plan.
Well, we found a bill that we both agreed on. Let's run with it. Ain't got about to do leave the damn party politics for the election.
Yeah, but and another thing too, when you get elected, he's a state senator. He run in Bullitt County and Jefferson County, but he becomes a state senator. You're involved in the entire state. You become a state senator.
Ken, we have got the time. Let me talk about another issue. Nurses. Okay. You know, we have parts of the state, and this is where the part when I mentioned to Ralph Alvarado, the guy running for lieutenant governor. Ralph's a doctor. And I had explained to him one day, I said, Ralph, you know, the title here is state senator, not doctor senator. It ain't about your organization or your life, right? Let me give you a for instance. In the state of Kentucky, and especially in eastern Kentucky and far western Kentucky, no doctors want to locate there. So you literally have people driving 80 and 100 miles.
Real quick, why is the
Well,
main reason?
money. There's no money for
clear.
them, right?
No good restaurants either.
Yeah, no money, right? So you have these nurses that are willing to be there, okay? Nurse practitioners they're called, and they're more educated, right? So there's a bill out there that would allow these nurses to enhance their prescription authority, okay? So if you, the doctor, don't want to be there, but you don't want the nurse to have it either, right? So my job as a state senator to make sure that I may not get you a doctor, but by God, I'm going to get you a nurse that's got some tools. Right? And I don't live in Eastern Kentucky, but I understand the issue. But this is a vision thing, and this is called leadership. Right. So what does Alvarado do? He kills the damn bill because there's this turf thing between the doctors and the nurses. You know.
Why?
So,
I guess why is there?
It's you know, if you want more prescription authority, then you need to be a doctor. Yeah. Well, I understand the argument, but the problem I got is I got to get medical services to these people
now.
You know,
you got like family or
my wife's family's from Whitesburg, Kentucky. Representative Angela Hatton is her first cousin. County Attorney Jamie Hatton is her first cousin as well. They're both cousins there, and her brother's a doctor in Jenkins, Kentucky, and his brother's wife is a nurse practitioner at Whitesburg High School. So all this kind of hits home, but and I know that they are. She would definitely be in favor of the nurse practitioners. I don't know about.
But I bet you she can't tell you that Alvarado killed her bill.
Probably not. But Angela probably would be able to tell me. Angela, are you familiar with Angela Hatton?
I know that name.
Yeah.
So that's the point. So people have to understand these things. Now there's 18,000 nurses in the state of Kentucky, plus another 1,800 PA physician assistants that are not allowed to have this new prescription authority, right? And because of one guy.
Ego? Is that what kind of?
No, he's protecting his turf. Damn it! I mean, that's what it is. I'm a doctor, and I'm going to protect my turf. And screw you.
That power is it's just so much. And I used to get so upset, and I said, Dad, why don't we change the Constitution for what? He said, well, for one thing, a couple $1 million, and another thing, you got to be careful what you ask for, because what if somebody says, hey, I want to marry all my daughters? Let's make it law. Well, throw it in there and we'll vote on it.
Probably a Mormon.
You know what I mean?
That's once you
that's a great analogy.
Once you open up the Constitution, beware. Be careful what you ask for.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Sometimes I think we got a better chance because we just got to deal with 138 people, but it's only 5 that's got the power to do anything that controls everything.
What we need is a picnic.
Well, by the way, if you're listening out there, September the 28th, from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we're having a picnic, and it's called "If You've Been Bullied by Bevin," and it's at my home at 1107 Holly Avenue in Fairdale.
We're going to put that on blast.
All teachers, all
anybody that
nurses, anybody that feels like they've been bullied by Bevin.
If you work in the judiciary and you feel like you're not an incompetent hack, you might want to come by, right?
I'm putting Bullied by Bevin in my calendar on the phone right now.
Now, here's another thing too that we've got to be careful of. We're not in here. It's a nonpartisan.
Right.
It's nonpartisan. We're not here to bash Republicans and Democrats. We don't like what Bevin's done. He's bullied everybody. We don't endorse him.
And every elected official, regardless of party, is invited to this party with the exception of one. The governor's not invited. You
He'd probably wear a bad jacket.
You don't insult, you don't insult my family, and you don't insult me, and expect to come to my home. It don't happen. So
Yeah.
It's reasonable.
Well, he had his own lieutenant governor sue him. If you've seen that in the news. And she's not happy. She's been bullied by Bevin, and I'd love to get her to come and speak. I really would.
I had lunch with her last week.
Is she coming?
Wonderful lady.
Is she coming?
Well,
This is going to be an event, man.
no,
Can we get Rand there?
I'd love to have him there.
Try and get
Yarmouth?
Leland.
Yarmouth coming?
He can come. He's invited if he wants to come.
I've invited Fisher.
Have you?
Whoever, if you're elected, you're welcome to come. Now, we're not going to have
They're gonna
40 people get up and make speeches now. But it'll be limited.
And this is
numbers.
not some type of fundraiser. Or anything.
No, it's not.
Fun.
No, it's.
No, actually, he's spent a lot of money on. We've spent a lot of money putting this together.
I'm spending my own money to put it together.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm going to actually, this is the whole podcast, but I'm gonna also take this little snippet of the
The party.
and put that out by itself as well.
You know,
So-
let me
we'll get
talk.
you,
Let me
we'll
talk
get you
about
there.
Janine Hampton.
okay.
As you understand, she's a black lady from Bowling Green. Okay, our
Just the lieutenant governor.
our
suing
lieutenant
Bevin.
governor. So you're Bevin and you're running, and you need a running mate. And there's a reason why you pick a black lady. For
Clearly.
politically
Yeah.
expediency. So especially if you want to win the West End of Louisville. Okay, right now. And I'm not saying that to be racist.
He's
I'm
calling it the way it is. It's
It-
not
it-
racist if it's true.
Well, it's a fact. It's a fact. Now, don't get me wrong. This woman is a retired officer in the military, sharp as she can be,
Qualified.
absolutely
Yeah.
class act,
Yeah.
and qualified.
Right. I get
You
that.
know, and I enjoyed having lunch with her, and I enjoy her company. Right. If she has a flaw, she's too nice. Okay. And she has been used, and she knows she's been used, but she's got more class than the governor ever thought of having, because she hasn't come out and blasted the guy. Now think about this. Now she's the lieutenant governor. That's a constitutional office that you're elected to. Right now, granted, she has to run with the governor's choice. They're a team, supposedly, right? You would hope they're a team.
yeah.
Apparently, on the governor's side, on the Bevin side, she's not part of his team. Apparently not. But at any rate, but now, so she, as a constitutional officer, gets to hire her staff. Right? You know, her number one person was a guy named Nippert and a young lady by the name of South something. But at any rate, so Bevin, for some reason, goes in behind her back. Now, if you're the governor and you're upset with one of your people that they've hired, it might be somebody over a cabinet or what have you, right? You don't go in around behind them and fire their people. Yeah. You call that person up and get them in your office. Say, hey, this guy, that's your job to fire him. Mm-hmm. Not to go. You don't go around behind her back and fire her staff on her. You know, that's her job. She hired him. It's her job.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much breaches everything we know about checks and balances by him just doing end arounds like that.
Well, yeah, and what it is, this is total disrespect and contempt of that woman. He used her big time. You know, that's exactly what he did. You know, and I'm sitting there and sitting back and say, my God, I have never seen this in my 40 years. The disrespect is phenomenal here. You know?
Why isn't there more? Because I hear, you hear these stories. You hear the school teachers. You hear, you got Bevin showing up and trolling people at the fair. Why isn't there more pushback, more of a grassroots effort to get this guy out?
I don't understand it. It's maybe there's just so much negative out there that's not catching. You know, there's an awful lot of negative.
People are
out there.
sick of politics too.
That's
They're
true.
Sick of hearing it. They're sick
Yes.
of politics. They're so disenfranchised. They see the hypocrisy and they've just bowed out. And I'm trying my best to get it. I mean, we take voter registrations every time we do a town hall because people are just not engaged anymore. Right. And trying to get them engaged is like pulling teeth. I understand it. I was definitely a nonconformist. I hated the government, but I realized my nonconformity, my long hair, it ain't going to get me nowhere. I mean, that's why the tattoos are above my elbow, so I could hide them. I knew I was going to play this game, you know, and so I've had to cut my hair and learn how to speak and get in Frankfurt and, you know, and talk to these people, because I can bitch all I want, but if I don't get involved and try to make it change, it's just going to be the same. So somebody's got to do it. And if we hope, I'm just hoping that these people that get off their asses and get involved and say, you know, it's time, you know, I get off my ass and get out from behind the freaking keyboard and go do some work, you know.
Yeah, I think we need to inspire people somehow. They are sick of politics, but in any situation where you have a problem, you have to look at it and say, okay, what do we do with people who are sick of politics? How do we get those people to understand
engaged.
what they need to do?
Right.
You know, what's important to them
It's
and
tough.
what's important to their community.
Picnic.
Which, you know,
It keeps-
it all starts with the
and
town halls and picnics.
we have now, I've got some folks with me. We have myrightTodecide.com and our Facebook page. And we're concentrated on my right to decide in the cannabis issue. I think, you know, Dad says it's, you know, it's a one issue thing, but I think it carries on. It covers so many issues. Your, you know, freedom and my rights, and the fact that what happens, you know, people, if they've been arrested for marijuana, they lose chances for Pell Grants, public housing opportunities, child custody determinations, jobs. If you piss dirty, I mean, if you've got a dirty urine, an arrest for marijuana, you can't get a job anywhere. Now, Massey did a poll, and they went around and started.
That's Congressman Massey.
Congressman Massey, and all. It's all above ground, 85% approval. But he started going around to warehouses and stuff. They said, we are short of people, not because we can't get qualified people, but we can't get people to piss positive.
Even the Koch brothers were against drug testing, as far as from what I've read, because they were such large employers of places, and they did not care what people did. I have friends that work at the Ford big truck plant out here, and the unspoken rule is that we look the other way on cannabis.
Well, here's one thing that really got me. I was a freelance coach. I didn't work for the state. I did not get a paycheck from them. And for the life, and I seen some pretty bad teachers. Now, not all teachers are bad, but there's some bad teachers. And I started thinking about everybody else that gets piss test. Teachers don't. They do not get piss tests.
I can vouch for that since 1983.
And I'll tell you something. If you would think that if anybody needed to be, it'd be ones that handling your kids. Yeah. And I've heard them talk to kids really bad. And I've went to battle for some of my kids and my football kids. And that's one thing why I have a problem with some of the unions, because they protect the bad guys. You know, and I've seen some teachers need to be thrown out on their cans. But they were protected, and even my brother-in-law, who was a principal at the school, could not do anything to him.
I think teaching should be a condition that you automatically get approved for medical.
Yeah,
just teaching.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, I'll tell you another thing I've seen too. The professional people that use cannabis, you wouldn't believe how many first responders and.
Back when I was there was a point in time when I had 4 stores and. Restaurant and bar business, and I always tell everybody I had 4 stores and I couldn't stand success and ran for office, but it's been an enjoyable time. But let me talk about back when I had 20 employees. I never it crossed my mind to test somebody for any kind of drug. It just never did, you know, because here was the rules. When you go to work for me, you know, you show up on time and do your job.
Right.
Leave your personal life at home and your politics at home. Other than that, come on, because I don't really give a damn what you do with your weekend. It's none of my business what you do with your weekend. Show up and do your job. You know, I had a guy work for me for, I guess, 10 or 12 years. I knew he was an alcoholic. He was my bartender, but he never drank on the job. So I don't give a damn if you want to get drunk on your day off. You know? So, but I never quite understood all this. You know, why is it we want to involve ourselves in everybody's personal life? Yeah. You know,
Insurance companies came in and said, you know, one guy was high, killed somebody, got sued for $1 billion, and the insurance company says, "Oh yeah, you got to test these people."
Well, here's what happened with the piss test and the marijuana. Marijuana stays in your system a lot longer, right? So if you don't want to get test positive for that, go ahead and use some Lortabs, OxyContin, cocaine. It stays in your system 3 days. So what the piss test did was drive people to the harder stuff.
Yeah.
It literally did. And that's like this Casper thing that they've got going. Yeah, we needed to deal with it, but we made more heroin addicts out of that than anything. I'm almost. We had there's a group called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and they think all drugs should be legalized. All drugs.
Really?
And they're law enforcement. Now,
Is that
should
local
they?
or is that
No, they're national.
Is it?
They're a
Okay.
national LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Now, I got with them because I wanted to bring him in to testify, but when he said all drugs, I said, oh, no, I can't let you bring that to Kentucky. They would freak out.
One
but
step
I
at a
think,
time, guys.
I think about it.
Easy now.
I think about it, and I would rather have a heroin addict go into a safe facility, test his stuff for fentanyl, get his free needle that you gave him anyway, do his drugs, and go on. I'd rather see that than somebody out here what's happening on the streets now. And it's happening. And until we start addressing the issues, they say that cannabis is a gateway drug. And I say that the gateway is poverty, abuse, sex abuse, loneliness, whatever screwed up here that got you to do the drugs that want to get you out of your
That's all
mind.
symptoms of alcoholism, isn't it?
Without, I did a whole debate on this in college about it being a gateway or not, and of course I was a con saying it wasn't. But the best point that's made is when without education, and you got a 13 or a 14-year-old engaging in this back before, now with the internet and with YouTube, it's ridiculous for someone not to be more educated on stuff because
Yeah.
there's so much information. But when someone's just trying it to get that high, it's not that it's a gateway. You have someone who is looking for something, a seeker of drugs. Those people are going to use anything as a
get rid
gateway.
of that worm.
Let me put it this way. No matter what we do in society, and I don't know what the true number is, but we're probably going to have 2 to 3% of the population, and I'm including alcoholics in this. They're going to go about the business of destroying themselves. They're always going to be with us, always, no matter what we do. Now, I don't happen to think because you want to destroy yourself, in my opinion, does not make you a criminal until your problem becomes my problem. You know, so that's been my libertarian take on that. You got a right to destroy yourself if you so choose, as long as you ain't messing with me and mine. You know, have at it. It was interesting. Again, I was in the restaurant bar business for 40 years. There was probably not a year went by that I didn't bury one of my alcoholics. I had people sitting in my bar every day of the week drinking their booze. Right? That was their life. Yeah. And most of them were functional drunks now. They had a job, but they drank, and they drank, and they drank. And in my 40 years, I never buried a kid over cannabis.
No, cannabis has never killed the first
I've
person.
never buried anybody, but I buried a lot. I buried everybody over that legal product.
Yep.
You know. So.
After you eat a couple bags of snacks and watch a movie, you're pretty much ready to go to sleep.
I've also never hear of armed robbery due to marijuana
Right.
use and all that.
Yeah.
So.
My gateway was 5 alcoholic stepfathers and an alcoholic mother who all wanted to beat on me and my sister and brother when they come home. That was my gateway. And when I was 8 years old, I was introduced to marijuana in Columbus, Ohio, and it felt a whole lot better than getting beat on at home by a drunk. That was my gateway.
So 8?
8 years old when I smoked my first. Back, that's how we lived in Ohio, in where I was from. You know, and guess what? A lot of my kids, a lot of my friends out there, they were living in the same situation. Same situation, and I had I was a football coach, and I made one of my kids an angel tree kid, and I took his Christmas presents to him, and he slept on a twin bed with 5 kids, long ways. They slept. That's how they slept on the bed. And while I was there was probably 20 knocks at the door. Now, if this kid can't take no more and he falls through the cracks and he goes and gets something to numb him from all that shit, and then he gets locked up for it, what does that do to the rest of his life? It's got to stop, man. It really does. And we need to start looking at why these people are doing it and dealing with that instead of what
But
instead
now,
of
wait a minute, Dan, what are we going to do about our for-profit jails? Dan, what do we got to have for-profit jails?
There's plenty of violent
Yeah,
criminals.
what are you all going to do about that?
There's plenty of violent
Mr.
criminals to,
Senator.
to fill them up.
I don't know if my portfolio can handle that.
That's like Dad said. How many outstanding felony warrants are there right now in Jefferson County?
70,000.
70,000.
No. Back up. When
40.
Let me back up. When I got rid of the vehicle emission testing program in Jefferson County, there was 10,000 outstanding warrants over vehicle emission testing. Now, nobody went to jail over vehicle emission testing, but we had one judge at the time. We had 26 judges in Jefferson County at the time, and one judge was in charge of vet court, and that's all he did. And they lined up down the hallway, and it was like guilty $100, guilty $100. It was all about making money with the court system, right? I get rid of this damn thing, and there's 10,000 outstanding warrants. So what do you do with those? They're outstanding. So every one of these warrants then have to be rescinded by a judge, right? So they were sitting up there doing 10, 15 every day, every judge, getting rid of these damn things, right? So then I got to thinking, this is 05, by the way. 2005. Then I got to thinking, well, how many other outstanding warrants are out there? This is ridiculous, right?
Child port's got to be bad.
Yeah. So then I said, I had a Legislative Research Commission do a study for me. We call it LRC in Frankfurt. Do a study. I want to know how many outstanding warrants the state of Kentucky has, right? So it comes down 360,000 outstanding warrants, of which 25% were felony warrants. Now, 70,000 of the 360,000 were in Jefferson County alone. So in 05, Jefferson County, doing the 25%, at any given time had 15,000 felons running our streets. Okay? Now, that's 15,000, by God. Now, you had that murder rate. 2 years ago, we had 127 murders. And invariably, when you locked up the guy that actually committed that murder, he had an outstanding felony warrant. So have we ever gotten around to arresting our felons, we may get our murder rate down, right? But in the meantime, we're more interested in locking some kid up over cannabis. Because, why? Because they'll pay the fine and go home. Because when you lock up the felon, they're expensive.
And a cannabis user's docile.
So I have a history in all this stuff, and you sit there and you say, what the hell, why are we not arresting our felons? If you want to bring the murder rate down, go get your bad guys and lock the bastards up, What
if we could get the snack food industry involved in this? Because I feel like, Cereal Post, Kellogg's, and Frito-Lay, they got a vested interest in people.
They're already doing good. We're getting it anyway.
We're talking about exponential gains here, people.
They could do better.
All
right. Dan the Senator and Dan the Man. Great conversation.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're gonna do. We're gonna picnic. We gotta make that.
Yeah.
Final words, real quick. What is next with this bill? What do we have to do quickly?
Well, the bill has to be, hopefully it'll be pre-filed before the January session, so there's some advertising out there. And now they understand something. When you pre-file a bill, it has a BR number, bill research number, and it doesn't get assigned a number until January when the session starts. That's when I got to try to get the 80 number on it, okay? Now, and I think we just refile the same bill with Dan's medical amendment to it, and you just come right back at it because you got more ammunition now because more states have legalized it. All Canada has done it, and all this thing. But I thought that what Illinois did, the Democratic governor of Illinois, when they legalized cannabis, 800,000 expungements over a felony count for cannabis. Now that is
That's close to 1 million.
Well, yeah. So it gives you an idea who all out there had one of these things. So, but it's my understanding they actually put that in the bill. So, so you didn't have to apply for the expungement; it just went away.
It went away.
Right.
If 80's not available, could you get Senate Bill 420, maybe?
We can't get him that high. It'd be cool.
Good.
But anyway, so it does have a future. It will happen on two different fronts. Number one, we ought to decriminalize it, and number two, by God, we need the damn money.
Yeah, and one of the things too, though, like Dad kind of alluded to.
Remember now, when you take the money from under the table and you put it on top of the table, you get the taxes. You get
The tax.
But what's important now is Dad has made a bold move by doing what he's done,
I'm sure.
and he's going to introduce this bill. And if they don't like him or what he's done, they can shit can the bill. So that's why it is so important that we work out here to make sure he's got co-sponsors, and he's going to do his work in Frankfurt.
Right.
But we also got to get the public involved in this entire state, not just Jefferson County, because in Jefferson County and Lexington, we're basically preaching to the choir.
Right. True.
It's the other conservative states. Now, we have no money. So it means we don't get to do any mailers. We don't get to do any TV. We don't get to do any billboards. Like
But
people
social
with
media is.
Social media that's what's working,
Yeah.
and we have gotten further because of it. We've gotten pretty far. We've got CBD, hemp's going. We got the LLEPO. We're working it,
Right.
but we need to get the people involved. We've got to get you involved and get you to get your people out in Monticello, out in Paducah.
Step up to the plate,
and we've
bro.
got to step up and get the people, and they have to call their legislators, their House and Senate, and say, you get behind Seum's bill, and you get on the sponsor, and we want this done, or we're going to put you out.
We need to do a viral video. Get Seum in a viral video so that we can just get that free publicity.
Well,
Bunch
I'll
of
tell you what, I
hashtags
came
and-
close to going viral when I stood up on the Senate floor and say, I come out of the hospital after the surgery and smoked a joint.
I actually heard about that story. I didn't know.
They put the Thug Life on him. Did you see the Thug Life video? They put the
Are you
Thug Life
serious?
on him.
No,
Yeah.
I'll Google. I'll
You
find
got to Google it. He said, and it's the look on his face. He said, I'd put that oxy down and I smoked a joint, and they threw the Thug Life on him. Man,
I've
That
got to
was too
find. That's
cool.
going to get added to
Surprised
this.
Bevin didn't have the troopers come down and.
Well, he had legislators that weren't happy with him. I didn't think that was funny.
Absolutely. You know,
But now, Dad, like I said, Dad's going out on. He's going against his own party because he's doing what he thinks is right. He always has. That's why he's got it. They know. That's why he keeps getting elected. They called him a maverick, but the man's got integrity. He's going to get. He could get blackballed because of what he's done, and we're going to need everybody else stepping up on this.
Let
side.
me say this about elected officials. Okay. You know, in my 40 years, I have no contracts with the city, county, or state. I have no loans with the city, county, or state. And I have no family member with a job with the city, county, or state. So I have not milked this for one nickel other than my paycheck. Now, what that does, that gives you total ability to do what the hell you think is right, because nobody can call you up and say, hey, Dan, you owe me. Because that's what happens when you start plugging yourself in, right? That's what happens to you. You get owned and you get controlled. Because if I had called the governor up and said, can you get my daughter a job, and he gets her a job, I would not be doing what I'm doing now, would I?
Right? No, you wouldn't.
Because it might cost her job. So you got to be very careful when you get elected.
You know,
Where-
you're just confirming what a lot of people have thought.
Yeah.
Always thought. So.
Nepotism. It happens in the business
Well,
everywhere.
Just not
It's
nepotism,
not
but
just-
the fact that you're almost bought and known because of, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. But the number that you need to call is 1-800-372-7181. That's Frankfurt. And most important, though, we need to flood the lines. But you need to personally talk to your House representative and your senator and all your local elected officials. I know it's tough, but you're going to have to get out and do it. It's just got to
Let me back that up with this something. If the people out there are just listening to this, I'm going to tell you one thing. You got to remember something. When somebody is an elected official, they work for you. You, the voter,
Right.
are the boss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you, the
So
voter.
they say.
Well, no. What happens if you're not willing to make the phone call? Then he does whatever the hell he wants to do.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're the boss, and you call this guy or this woman up, and you discuss this issue with him.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do you not call them up, you say, "Can I come to your home? Will you have lunch with me?" Right? And you be a little bit forceful, right? And understand that this person works for you. And we all, and let's put it very simple. I live by the vote. I got to have the vote. I can't get elected if I don't have the vote,
That is true.
right? You know, so I'm going to respond to you, right? But if you're not in the game, I'm not responding. And now there's something else that goes on, and this might be cold politics, but this is the case. I'll get many people that will call, and I got a staff person, right, that checks to find out if they're registered voters. If you're not a registered voter, I ain't calling you back.
That's fair. That is fair.
You know, because if I spend my time dealing with people that don't vote, I don't get reelected.
You don't.
Now, I understand that's cold, but that's real.
No, that's
You know,
I didn't,
Maybe call them back and send them a registration form.
Well, you might do that, but if you're an adult in this country, that's your job. That's your
True.
responsibility to be a
Very-
registered voter.
yeah, exactly.
Now, I won't tell you how to vote. I won't tell you what party to sign up for, but I would tell you it's your damn job and it's your responsibility in this as a citizen of this country to be a voter. That's your job. You know,
Another thing too is when a legislator gets elected, he doesn't become the jack of all trades automatically. Dad is not a doctor, and you get the Leukemia Society coming in wanting him to file a bill. Well,
He's
I don't know
gotta
nothing
have
about
access
leukemia.
to-
You've got to give me everything I need, so I can represent you. And I've seen that happen in the office all the time. And we expect these guys to be like God or some king. It's not like that. They're humans. They're
or the
humans.
chosen one, like the guy in the White House.
You know, let me tell you how, you know, and this shocks people sometimes, and I completely understand where I'm at in my position. You know, you remember the pill mills in eastern Kentucky when we had to shut them all down, and right, you know, so we had this piece of legislation that comes across. It's laying on my desk, and I'm trying to read this legislation. And I realized by reading this legislation, I say, well, wait a minute, I'm not an MD, I'm not a pharmacist, and I don't run a pain clinic. What the hell does this damn thing do? I don't know, you know. So I say to staff, find me somebody that runs a pain clinic. I need to talk to him. I don't know what I'm doing here, right? So they get this fella, I think it was out on Dixie Highway, and he's aggravated that he calls me back. Well, Senator Seum, didn't you read the bill? I said, you read the bill. It's your business, because what I don't want to do is hurt the legitimate pain clinic. I don't know what I'm doing here. And he backed up. He didn't understand that. You know, then we had a bill up there that had to do with the court system, right? Well, Judge Burris is my number one judge circuit court judge over in Bullitt County. I called up Judge Burris. I don't remember call it Senate Bill 110 or whatever it was. I said, Judge, have you read 110? He said, yes, I have. I said, what's your take on it? You know, I'm not a judge. I don't run a court system. What am I doing? Right? And it shocks them, right? We had a bill a while back on my jailer, right? It was a bill had to do with the per diem we pay $31 and some odd cents for every state prisoner that's in the county jail. Well, they were debating whether or not that was going to be more money in the housing and the space and all that. So I call up my jailer, right? She don't call me back. Guess what? She's not the jailer anymore. I'm going to support a guy that's running for jailer that, by God, I can have a conversation with.
Right.
You know?
It's old school's common sense politics is what you got going on.
Well, absolutely, because, you know, I'm telling the public out here, you have to understand that I do not know all things here. I can't know it. And maybe in most cases, I probably know just enough to be dangerous with it. But
Well, you're supposed to get the talking points. Just all you got to do is get your party talking points.
But you got to get the people. They got to come in the door and give him. He's got to get the tools, and we expect him to know everything. It's like Bevin, you know, or anybody that wants to be governor or president. They have checks and balances. I've seen Bevin be vetoed. And he might want to think he's
What's interesting enough,
cock of the walk, but he ain't.
In the 3 sessions that he's been there, every bill that he's vetoed, the Republican Senate and Republican House overrode his vetoes. Will give you an idea how much respect this guy has amongst his colleagues in Frankfurt.
Peers,
You know. Let me give you another one if you got time. Let me tell you about the special sessions that just came up. Right.
I'm thinking I've kept these guys out long enough, and I'm trying to wrap it up. And then I keep hearing, and another thing, and another
Here we could
I
just
haven't seen
keep
either one of
going,
them. Neither one of them stood up yet. They're pretty voluntarily.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait. Let me tell you about the special session.
Is your bladder not full?
Okay, no. Let me tell you about the special session that we just had. Okay. Now, this is probably my 12th special session with this 8th governor. Now, a special session is normally called because of emergency reasons. This is the governor's power. Only he can call one, and only he can set the agenda for the special session. And normally it's over some sort of a crisis. It might be major flooding in some part of the state, and we need to rearrange some budget money to get it over there and take care. That's what it's about, right? So we had this bill up there on these quasi-retirements thing. Now, the quasi-retirement thing is a totally separate thing. Pension system separate from the teachers, the state, and the county employees. Totally separate thing. 7 counties was part of the quasis who went bankrupt a while back, okay? With mental health people, the 7 counties. So we got to correct this thing. So during the regular session, we passed a bill to fix that. The governor vetoed the bill without telling anybody why. Well, I just don't like the bill. So he vetoes it, right? So there's a crisis. We got to fix this by July the 1st. Otherwise, these people are going to collapse and the money's not going to be there, whatever. We got to fix this damn thing. So now he's in a box because now he's got to call a special session. So he says, no, prior to the special session, he calls us in to talk to the governor and his staff about his version of the latest news bill, the one he vetoed, right? So I'm one of 10 legislators out of 138 that actually showed up for the meeting, right? Because the rest of them says, you know, the guy vetoed the bill, the hell with him, right? So I show up, right? And we're in a staff, and there's a staff, and I'm saying, well, where's the governor? Well, he's not here. Okay. But the staff was going to talk about it. Then I said, well, been around a little bit of a while, and I said, absence of a side-by-side, and this kind of gives you an idea how unprofessional things are over there, right? Let me tell you what a side-by-side is. A side-by-side is the bill he vetoed, the bill he's proposing, and the differences. That's called a side-by-side. And I need that because I need to see this, right? Well, they don't have one. So I say in this meeting to his staff, what is it in your bill that won't wait till January when we're in a regular session instead of calling a special session? Well, him hauled around, so we're going to call one anyway. It's his prerogative. He's the governor, right? So now normally, if you're going to have a special session, you can do it in 5 days. You can pass a bill through both houses and the governor signs it in 5 days, right? Which means Monday through Friday. Now, we as legislators only get paid when we're in Frankfurt. We don't get paid when we're out here. We get, that's about the $32,000 a year that it works out, so on average, okay? So it's $65,000 a day to have these 138 legislators in town. That's what it costs. Now, he calls his special session on a Friday. And I'm thinking, why? Why? Normally we can do it Monday through Friday, but he calls it on a Friday, which means I now have 138 legislators in town on a weekend getting paid. And we got to be there. We've been called, right? Now, we managed to do some work on a Saturday on the bill, right? So, but we can't work constitutionally. We cannot do any business on a Sunday.
Really?
Period.
I didn't know that.
We cannot. That's constitutional, state constitution. But we get paid because he called us in.
Is that the whole rest on seventh day thing?
That's the Emperor Constantine worshipped the sun. The Sabbath is actually Saturday.
But that's in our state constitution, and it would take a constitutional.
Okay.
And it applies when in this situation anyway. So it's very rare, very rare. So now I show up on a Friday. right? Now remember, normally when you have a special session and it's the governor's bill and his solution to this crisis, he's downstairs in his office or he's over in the mansion. He's available, and he's available if you want him to come and talk before the committee, or he's available actually to be invited in on the Senate floor to discuss it, right? So we're there on Friday, and I'm thinking, where's the governor? Oh, he's in Colorado. True story.
Wow.
He's in Colorado.
Probably smoking some cannabis.
Checking it out, right? What they're going to do with that
He's a
$1 billion
dummy.
that
He's
they
a
got up
dummy
there.
guy.
But anyway, so you're sitting there saying, now his special session ended up 6 days. We did it by Wednesday, got it done by Wednesday. So we spent an extra $65,000 because he wanted to go to Colorado. And you sit there and you say, this guy is incompetent as hell. And why is it I'm not the governor and I know more than he knows?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Why are you not the guy?
Well,
We tried. He wouldn't do it.
you got to spare $10 million?
I guess it is.
Yeah.
We'll play the lottery.
It's several picnics.
Anyway, I'm glad you got to hear all that. So.
I'm very glad.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
No, I mean it needs to be out there, especially that tax thing where people are they're getting hosed on a tax write-off, but because they don't understand that is directly affecting them financially.
No.
They don't have they have too short of an attention span for the news to even explain it to them. Apparently,
When you lose a tax deduction, it is a tax increase.
yeah.
Period.
So Bevin raised taxes. That's the punchline. That's the tagline.
Yeah, right.
Bevin has.
Well, it's going to come out too. It's going to come out.
We hope it comes
We're
out.
trying to do our part, but we don't have the millions to put out there on the airwaves.
Yeah.
And like this podcast, we rely on folks
On
like
something
you
like this,
to get us out because we don't have the millions to do it.
But the Leo is the Leo ever featured you in anything like that?
Leo won't. I've tried to get them to do a deal on this medical on the marijuana. They won't do it. They come out and they said something about the thing that Bevin did. It was just one of a hodgepodge of other things, but they won't.
I think
do a
the
complete
Leo,
story.
because I'm a Republican, doesn't want to deal with
Yeah,
me.
because it's Yarmouth's.
They'd rather just
thing.
piss and moan rather than get something done.
Yeah, just write a bunch of crap and not do anything about it.
Yeah.
Just write a bunch of hateful crap and not do it. And I love Leo. I mean, that's where I go to find about my concerts, and I like Leo magazine.
Maybe
But
I
I've
should
tried
just
to
do
get them
one
to
of these once a month with these guys.
Just like I've tried to do the NAACP and the ACLU. They should be involved just because
Big
of
time.
that nasty, bigoted, racist lie. And you want to tear down a statue. Here's a living statue that's still incarcerating people. Black Jefferson County citizens are arrested 6 times more for marijuana than any white person, although they consume the same. Nationwide, 4 times more. 4 times more, and you think, why are they not out here bum rushing these courts and these legislators' offices? And they won't do it. They won't do it. And I begged them. I've been in black churches. I've been on the West End. Help. None. No help.
Because of the hippies, they made it very demonized.
Well, and not only that, but LGBTQ can come out of the closet and not fear going to jail.
You'd ask your dad if he remembers that T-shirt.
Which one?
Make war not love, make love not war.
Yeah, he definitely.
I'm
does.
going to have a big shirt made, and it's going to have a big hookah pipe with all the pipe hoses. I'm going to have a black guy, a white guy, a cop, a clergy, and it's going to say, "Can't we all just get a bong?"
A bong. I like that.
Man, if we could do that,
All right,
we'd have
guys.
so much.
I think we're about headed here.
Yeah,
Dan times 2. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yeah, man, this
we'll
is
do it
good.
again. Anybody that you recommend, hit me up. We'll make that
we'll
happen.
get Tom and some of the others. I want you to hear Kim's story. She's got a compelling story. Tom Rector is really good on piss tests and Constitution. So we'll get some folks in if we can make this a series and
Yes,
get
I
people
think so.
involved and
Yeah.
change this state.
Right? You are our special.
That's the father right there. He's the middle guy in the middle.
Oh yeah, looks like he's in the Kentucky Headhunters.
All right. Good podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.